Hey guys, I hope you're doing fantastically and having an amazing day. So today I thought I would do like a science fiction book recommendation, and I decided to do all adult books, kind of like following the genre of my high fantasy book recommendations video, which was so much fun to make. Obviously, I have much more experience when it comes to the fantasy genre than I do in the science fiction genre, but I really like science fiction, and it's one of those genres that I do like slower books. So a lot of these are gonna be slower books, and I have some classics and yeah, all adult sci-fi. So I'm gonna be talking about 10 books today, and let's get started. Let's start with the series that got me into sci-fi in the first place. This is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and some of these books you'll notice if you don't like kind of like whimsical science fiction, then this is not like the book for you. These are the first 3 books. I read 4 of them, but the first 3 are 5-star books. The 4th one I didn't really like, and I still haven't read the 5th one, but this series is just so crazy and whimsical and amazing. I absolutely love it. These book covers are really amazing. They're like shimmery and stuff. So you follow this character called Arthur Dent, classic British character who is the only one who survives when the Earth blows up, and you follow his journey through the universe of like what happens afterwards. This book is so crazy. Like the second one, especially the restaurant at the end of the universe, I think might be my favorite one. The whole concept of the restaurant at the end of the universe is so cool. For this one, I don't know if it's like necessary to name the specifics, but a part of it is about this restaurant. It repeats the same day over and over at the end of the world, so you can see like the world exploding. It's supposed to be like so beautiful and exclusive, like it's at the same day again and again. So I think like if you go twice, you see yourself twice, like there. I don't know exactly how it is because I don't remember, but it's so crazy. Like it doesn't really make sense, and it's all about like analyzing human habits and what we do, but in like a science fiction context, in like an insane way. I absolutely love this book. I'm definitely gonna read more by Douglas Adams, and unfortunately I haven't read the last book, but I'm really looking forward to it. The next one is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Now this is an adult science fiction, but it does take place on Earth, and it isn't a difficult read, so you can definitely still read this if you're younger, I think. But it's just so funny, and this is about this man called Jason Dessen. He has a wife and a child, but he chose his family over his career when he was younger, and so he wakes up one day after he has been kidnapped in a world where his wife isn't his wife and he doesn't have a child and he's still a scientist, and then you kind of get to follow like how he got there and what happens afterward. Like this book is just crazy. Like it's so good. It's a really cool analytical way of looking at the world, and I love the fact of like different dimensions. If that doesn't spoil too much, I highly recommend this book. It's so great. I really love it. It's such an easy read, but it's also really funny, and it has concepts that I really enjoyed. Next, let's talk about The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becca Chambers. This is a 3-book series so far. These are all companion novels, but you kind of should read them in order. This is actually my least favorite cover. I think this is UK cover. This is the American covers. I think they're really great. And I read all 3 of the books, and this is a character-driven sci-fi. So it's definitely easier to approach if you're not that into like sci-fi and stuff, but the whole concept is that there's these people on a spaceship. They're all from like different parts of the universe, and they all are different species, which makes it so interesting because they're completely different and they have completely different habits and interactions and talking systems and stuff. And there's one species in here who basically don't talk with words. They talk with like the colors on their cheeks, which I think is so cool. And it's just really interesting, and it is definitely a slower read. I read this one before BookTube, so I was like quite young, and I remember it took me quite a long time, but I really enjoyed it. The second one, A Close and Common Orbit, I had to listen to audiobook because it was so slow. And yeah, but I definitely really love the second one. I do recommend the series, and I just want to say like I gave it 3 stars, but you also gain a lot from it when you do read it, because it really looks at individual humans and not like the technological things of sci-fi. It's like looking at the people, and I really find that really interesting, so I do recommend this series. Next, we have The Blade Runner by Philip K. Dick. I haven't read anything else by him, but I really love this book. But if you read or seen the movie and you didn't really like it, I'm with you. I mean, the book is so much better. The book is much more funny, and you're kind of following this guy who hunts like robots that are not supposed to be on Earth, or like artificial intelligence, and it's really cool. I really liked it. I like following kind of like the atmosphere of how Earth turns out like after this like huge world war in the future, kind of. I think the movie did that really well. Like, it showed kind of the atmosphere so well, but the main character, he's just like, I don't know if I hate him or like love him, but it's just really great, and it's kind of like a dystopian sort of thing, but I really liked it. Next, I have Kurt Vonnegut's SlaughterhouseFive. Now, this book is a sci-fi, but it's also kind of not. It kind of follows this man who was a soldier during the fire bombings in Dresden, and this is kind of just following his life, but the main character doesn't have like a normal life. He basically experiences lives in not one line, like he jumps from different parts of his life, which is what makes this book interesting. Like, it can be a little bit confusing because it's not like the normal way of living, and it's not really sci-fi, but something happens with him where he's like abducted by aliens at one point, and it's just like, it's so funny. But it's also really, really serious because he talks about kind of how this event affects his life, and you get to follow him at different points, and sometimes experience the after before he experienced this event, which is really interesting. So I do recommend this a lot. I read it really quickly because I read it during Booktubeathon 2017, and the cover is really cool. I really liked how this book looks. And I'm definitely gonna read more by Philip K. Dick and Kurt Vonnegut. I have Timequake in my shelf, so soon. Next, I have this series. This is, oh my god, the Expanse series, and the 8th book is coming out in April, I think. But I've only read the first 3, but they're absolutely amazing. Like, I think a part of me kind of wants to read all of them before I recommend it to you, but I know like all of them is gonna be absolutely amazing. This is like a space opera, like epic sci-fi kind of. You're following these characters who has this job of carrying like ice from the Saturn rings to the belters, and the belt is like people who living on the asteroid belts. It's like a very, like, the world is ending and this one person kind of has to save it all, but I absolutely love them. Like, the way they're explained, it's like so fast-paced, it's constantly like a lot of action. In the second one and third one, you're following much more characters, and in the first one you're just following 2 characters, basically the captain of this ship who's hauling this ice for water to the asteroid belts, and you're also following this cop who is a belter and who also kind of an alcoholic, and it's really interesting when these 2 people meet, and it's just such a good series. Like, it's just so insane. I really, really love it and highly recommend it. Like, of all these books, if you have to read one, then maybe it would be this series, I think, or I mean Levitan Wakes, the first book. This is just so great. I love James S.A. Corey. Next, we have Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I actually recently did a book review on this. I gave this book 4 stars, and it's about these 6 pilgrims coming from different parts of the universe, and they're all have this goal of going to this world called Hyperion, and Hyperion has this creature called the Shrike, who is this mystical creature from like another time, who lives in the time toms where time doesn't really exist in the same ways, and they all have different reasons for visiting this place again. It sounds a bit confusing, but the whole story is told with the backstory of these 6 pilgrims, and when you get the backstory of all those 6 people, then you also kind of understand what's happening in the world and how it works, and you get like more and more information. This is definitely a really, really slow read, but it's also really rewarding. I think it was definitely points when I wanted to DNF it because it's so slow, but a slow book isn't necessarily a bad book. The other series, what was it called, The Expanse, is really quick and you just kind of like absorb it, and it's really exciting, which is something I don't really experience a lot with sci-fi, because sci-fi is more like I like reading the classic part of it. I don't know, when it's like more advanced kind of, but I really recommend this book if you're up for the challenge. Next is Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente, and I actually haven't read anything else by her, and I'm sorry for the reflection, I'll put this down. But yeah, I read this book also in Booktubeathon, so if you want to watch those thoughts, then yeah, it's in the cards. And this is about kind of like these alien flamingos coming to Earth, and there's a hologram of them presented to every single human, and basically they're saying that you are a like horrible species and we're gonna kill you unless you find a musician and perform in like this Melody Grand Prix kind of thing, like a song contest, and if you like don't lose, then we'll keep you in our like peace, like our galactical treaty kind of, but if you lose, like you're out of here. So you get to follow this one character who used to have this band, and he's kind of like a washed up rock star, and now he has to like assemble his band again and compete in this contest because all the other people that the flamingos kind of recommend that performs are dead. And yeah, it's really funny and it's kind of crazy, and if you don't like this sort of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy theme where it's like not really making sense, like kind of whimsical, then you're not gonna like this either. But if you do, it's really fun. It was also a slower read, and it's like very wordy the way she writes. Like it's a lot of words in a sentence, and it doesn't all really make sense, but it's just kind of like you just kind of have to humor yourself with how it's constructed, if that makes sense. Okay, so the last two books are both classics, and they're kind of like similar. The first one is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I think Mary Shelley is such a huge inspiration. I absolutely love her, and I love like everything she did for her time, and this is just such a great book. In the beginning and the end, it wraps up the story so well. I really loved it, and all the themes that are presented in this book are just really, really good. I absolutely love it. So you're following this one guy, I don't remember his name, Frankenstein, like duh. He has read all these books about kind of like biology and these things, but then he goes to school and all those novels are old and they don't really apply anymore. But then he decides to create this monster, Frankenstein's monster, obviously. And it's a lot of information from the old books that are not really relevant as well. So when he creates this monster, he kind of like goes insane in a way. And this monster, you get to follow his perspective as well as he's trying to figure out why all humans like hate him. And he kind of turns out to become the monster that everyone thinks he is, even though he wasn't created that way. It's just really, really interesting. I absolutely love this book and I highly recommend it. And I highlighted so much stuff while reading it. It's like one of my favorite books ever. I really love it. And the last one is kind of like a recent read, The Island of Dr. Moreau. You're following this scientist who accidentally gets stranded and picked up by this boat who has all these animals on it. And the boat takes him to an island where there are kind of these creatures who are half animal, half human. And he meets this doctor called Dr. Moreau who is making experiments. And that's basically all I'm going to tell you. It's kind of like the Frankenstein thing, but they have two completely different themes, and the storytelling curve is not the same, so it's like not the same thing. But I think I enjoyed like this kind of stories. I really like it, and I will definitely read more by H.G. Wells. I really like sci-fi classics. I really do recommend this book. This is also an easier classic. I mean, some sci-fi classics can be a little bit harder, but this is just such an easy read. It has short chapters, so like don't worry. So those are all the book recommendations I have for you guys today. If you have any sci-fi recommendations for me, then please leave them down below. I would love to have sci-fi recommendations because I haven't read that much. So yeah, I hope you guys all are really, really enjoy it, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!